All right, hi everyone. My name is Alpha Freeman. I'm coming straight live from Frankfurt, Germany, and today I have the one and only Mr. Robert Hollis with me, straight from Montana, in the United States of America. It's been a great privilege and a great honor to have him on the show today with the Next Generational Business Talk. No need no introduction whatsoever. Please take it away, Mr. Robert.
Well, Alpha, thank you very much. I really love your heart and your wanting to share with people. So thank you very much for allowing me this platform. I really love what you're doing.
Thank you, thank you. It's my great honor. Definitely, it's been a great asset for me to have this platform to share with my peers about the importance of learning and sharing educational information throughout the world. And I know you've been a great successful business owner, a great successful businessman throughout the years. Can you please give us a quick rundown regarding how you got started? What was that
Sure.
one that got you boom into it?
Yeah. Well, I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur was. I didn't know what mentor was. I grew up in a very small town. It was called Williston, North Dakota. And when I grew up there, everyone had this sort of. I'm 61 years old, so it was funny, Alpha. Everyone had this comment. Why do you need education?
Mm,
I remember this when I was really, really young. And well, you need education to get a good job. Well, I'll hire you right now.
right.
So I grew up in the Williston, North Dakota basin. It's called the Bakken oil field, and it's one of the largest oil fields in the world. And,
Hmm.
and so all they were looking for is you could make pretty good money if you was willing to go to work. So there really wasn't any reason for a high school degree, even. A
Right.
lot of my uncles and the people that I knew and I grew up around, they were making incredible money, and none of them had any high school degree. So it when you grow up around groups of people, they influence who you are.
Right.
So always remember when you're struggling with anything is you become who you hang around. And
True.
I've heard these phrases where you're usually the sum or the average of the five people that you hang around the most. So when you're learning stuff, so what did I learn? I learned the only how to become successful is very simple. You just worked hard.
True.
And it's like that's it. So when you look in life, it's like when you're younger, everybody expects you to go to fourth grade.
Right.
Everyone around you expects you to go to fifth grade, right? And
Right.
depending on the family and the area that you grew up, there are some societies that, hey, if you're going to be around us, you are going to college. You are getting a degree. See?
Much
So,
to go.
yeah, yeah. So I just wasn't around that. And so what else did the world or the people I knew expect of me? They expected me to be a law-abiding citizen. They expected me to get married. They expected me to have children.
Mm,
And yeah, that's what we expect of you. So a lot of people, when they grow up, they're sort of stuck in mediocrity and also being ordinary because everyone is that way.
right.
So I know the statistics worldwide, which is pretty amazing. Less than 1% of people make over 100 grand.
True.
$100,000, less than 1%. And so here in the United States, it's a little different where, 5% of the people in the United States make over 200 grand. So I didn't know these statistics. So everything was going okay for me until I got hurt.
Mm,
So I had an uncle that his name is Sid Nice. I'll always give him credit. And he goes, Robert, the oil fields are not going to be here forever. You
mm,
got to learn something technical, a blue collar. And he says, you're good with your hands. And it's sort of sad to say this, but I don't remember anybody else in my life saying that I was good at anything. I shared with you that I was dyslexic in school. And all I knew really young is they didn't know how to diagnose that.
right.
So I was just special.
Right. The quote
And
unquote
so
the
yeah,
quotation.
and what's funny is later in life, when people started telling me I was special, I went, I know that already. I was a positive. It was a superpower for me. I seemed to be really great with common sense, great with my hands, love math,
Mm,
just couldn't spell, difficult to read. And so it's funny how we're always put into a educational system where you got to be good at everything. And if you're not, you got low grades and you're not considered smart in the world, you know? And I think, wow, I homeschooled my sons. I have 3 boys. So my oldest one in a couple of days, 3 days will be 41. My youngest will be 30. And when I think about those, I homeschooled my sons. Why? Because I allowed them to just love what they do and get great and extraordinary at what they love. Because I explained to them, when you're extraordinary at something, people will give you money for it. And then you can hire people that do things that you're bad at. So make enough money to be able to employ and help other people. So I decided to take that route. I went to a trade school, been a mechanic. And so a lot of people run into this difficulty of just identity. Our identity means a lot to me and to people. So Alpha, is pretty funny when people walk up and they see you out or whatever, and they go, Alpha, what do you do? It wouldn't be okay for you to say, I'm just having fun being a human. No. What do you do? I love giving wisdom to people. I love helping children. No. Alpha, what do you do to make money? See what I mean? In our world, these labels are placed upon you. Exactly. So back then, I would have said, I'm a mechanic.
Right.
And that's the end of the story. I work on cars. And so everything was going good for me. And I love pushing myself. You know, there's a word called Kaizen, and that's the never-ending improvement. It's a Japanese word. And all of a sudden, you know, what happened is I got hurt on the job. So when I got hurt on the job, I show you how smart I am. You know, a van started to tip off a hoist, and I tried to stop it. Well, I lost. And it pinned me against my toolbox, and it hyperextended my right leg and almost lost it. It really, really hurt it bad. So all I can remember is in the ER emergency room, there was a doctor. Now we know that doctors are important. They got authority. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, you're a mechanic?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Not anymore."
Oh, man.
Now, I now know mechanics that don't have any legs, right? I know mechanics that have one arm, you know, so it was awful for him to say that, but I looked at him with authority. So you got to be very, very careful of listening to someone who has opinions about you.
True.
Because they might not have your best interest. They might not know what's going on. And so now I'm on workman's comp in America. If you pay in lot to the government, they'll take care of you and assist you in when you're in this situation. So I was getting $900 a month. So I went from making almost $3,500 take home to $900. And here I was at the age of 27. So Alpha, what I was doing is I thought as long as I had money coming in, then I could spend it all. And then when you make good money, it's like everybody wants to give you a credit card to give you credit, right? So, but they don't like it when you miss a couple of payments, you know, so then they start coming and taking stuff away. So at the age of 27, 9 months on workman's comp, I had pretty much lost everything. I didn't have enough income to stay in my apartment and pay my utilities. So I let them shut off the electricity. And so all of a sudden I was in a position where I'm now in trouble and, you know, and in despair and depression and oh, woe is me and blaming the world and, you know, and it got so bad that I finally decided that I probably didn't want to live here anymore. What's the use of me being here? It was really dark times in my life. And then all of a sudden I remembered the day that I just didn't want to live like that anymore. I just said, the day's over. And I talk about this in my book. How is that working? You can on Amazon. And one of the things is best-selling book because the thing that switched for me is my oldest son, the one I told you that will be 41 in 3 days. We pulled the car away from our apartment, and he got out of the car. And as we were walking, he said to me, "Dad, why didn't you just take the car to the apartment?" It was like he's 6 years old. It's like you just go up a couple of blocks and you hang a left, and our apartment's right there. Alpha, I didn't know how to explain to my son that I was hiding the car from the repo man. So I was behind payments on my car, and it was a used car. I went to a pawn shop and got a loan on it. And I didn't know how to explain to my son that I was hiding the car from people that I owed money to. And so that was the moment that I went, I'm way over my head. And I know that Albert Einstein says this best, right? He says it's impossible to get out of a situation that where our minds got us into. You know what I mean? So here's you created the choices to get you to where you are today. To use that mindset and use that intelligence to get you out of that situation, it's don't blame yourself if you're stuck. You need different thoughts. You need different ideas. You need different scenarios. And of course, we call those things today paradigms. You know, you get your paradigm shifted. And so, Alpha, is everything okay?
Everything is all right. I just lost my sound in here for a quick second.
Okay, no problem.
Speakers.
I can hear you perfectly.
All right, perfect. Now it's on.
Okay, cool. He's like, hey, we're having a great interview. I don't know what he's saying, but it's probably pretty good.
I'll edit that one out. All right.
Yeah, and so, that was the day that I said, that I'm not living like this anymore. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to have excuses. I'm going to find something I can do. And, I hope this doesn't offend any of your listeners or watchers, but I didn't have a great relationship with God, but I thought, if I was going to ask for help, I was going to ask anybody. And so I can remember being in my apartment going, listen, man, if you're out there, you got my attention, I will do anything that you call me to do. And so a couple of days later, I get this call from a guy I only met a couple of times. His name's Sean Hennigan. And he said, hey, listen, I met this guy. He's not much older than us. And he made $62,000 last month.
Wow.
And to show you how naive and ignorant I was, it's like my response was, nobody makes that kind of money. I mean, today we understand that professional athletes, singers, actors, and then you got the crazy people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. These people, make that a second, probably make more than that a second. So it was just me being confined to my ignorance and also my skepticism, my criticism. It's like, what is this? Blah, 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 blah. And so he said, I'll introduce you to him. And so I remember driving down and meeting this guy, and he was telling me that he met a mentor in a bad, dark time of his life that introduced him to this book called Science of Getting Rich. And also that book, which was written in 1910, inspired Andrew Carnegie to hire Napoleon Hill, right, and do a 20-year study of the 500 wealthiest people on the planet to come out with the common denominators that they had. And that book was called Think and Grow Rich. And believe it or not, it's the 12th sold book in the world, 70 million copies. And people don't realize that the book was commissioned by the wealthiest person in the world, Andrew Carnegie, that says that he read The Science of Getting Rich. And so I'm going like, why didn't we get this in school?
Right?
What? And I love the titles, right? Science of Getting Rich. Rich now could be your lifestyle, but it doesn't have to be finances. It's learning something that a value that you can pass on to other people. And I know people, Alpha, not to get too deep into that subject, but I know people that did nothing but promote that book, and not only change millions of people's lives, but never worried about money for the rest of their life.
Mm.
So when I first heard about the science of getting rich, it was through a movie called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And I believe that can be found like on thesecret.tv, but it was the first pay-per-view movie you could watch online.
Wow.
The very first. And so it was this lady that lived in Australia, and on there she had Abraham and Jerry Hicks, Esther Hicks, had Bob Proctor, had all these people that talked about how this book changed their lives. So he said his mentor gave him that book. He read that book and then started following his mentor. And I went, hey, I don't read very good, but I will get that book.
Right.
And now I get to follow someone that applied those things that I never learned anywhere else. This concept of, Rockefeller has said it, and same with J. Paul Getty, both said the statement, I'd rather get 1% off 100 people's efforts instead of 100% of my own efforts. So this is the availability of learning something that can empower another person in all ways in their life, including financial, but you're working in a system that allows you to get compensated for that. The best example and the quickest one for people is real estate. People don't realize that in the United States, there's an owner of a person that owns Remax Real Estate. They own Keller Williams Real Estate. They own Century One Real Estate. And they sell franchises to business people that want to make money. Now, here's what people don't know. You don't have to have a real estate license or a broker's license to own a business.
True.
But people go, oh, I'd have to be a real estate agent. No, you could buy the franchise, learn to run the franchise. And what's the first thing that you need? Brokers.
Exactly.
And brokers have agents. And so now we got the customer that's either buying or selling a home. So a lot of people have heard of this concept, but they don't realize every time a home is bought or sold, there's an agent making money that splits it with the broker. And the broker also has to give a percentage of that sale to the firm, the real estate firm. And if you're in a franchise, there's a percentage that goes to the people that own the franchise that came up with it. So when people see that there's a bunch of middlemen in any transaction in the world is still these middlemen that get paid. If you bought something from a manufacturer, there's middlemen that actually get paid to deliver it to your home. There's middlemen that take taxes, not only from the country, but sometimes the province or the state and also the city. It's like, so if you can get in the middle of where all these middle persons, I guess that would be the proper way of saying it today, instead of middleman, it's middle person. Is if you can find out where these monies are going, you can get into that slot. So what it did, Alpha, is it made me realize, wow, I didn't know that there's principles that people have that are wealthy that are way, way different than people that work for 40 hours or more a week and then get paid and then do it again the next week. So it was this concepts where he looked at me, and I'll remember, like he said this yesterday, Alpha, as he said to me, he goes, can I ask you a simple question? I said, of course. He said, in a perfect world, where do you see yourself 5 years from today? And I said, I'm going to be a crew chief for a race car team. He goes, how long has that been your dream? I said, since I was 14, 15 years old. And he goes, okay, so let me ask you another question. Have you ever went to 10 people that have that position and asked them if they had to do it all over, would they do it again? No.
I got your attention.
Why? He said, that happened to me. My parents wanted me to be a doctor. I never thought about going to the very best hospital with the very best doctors and asking 10 doctors, hey, if you could do it all over again, would you? And he said, I did. And none of them said that they would do it over. And I asked them why. And they said, well, I got in not only to be prestigious and have this position, but I love helping people. And this profession now is turned into a machine. I don't get to spend personal time with people. I got to see patients so fast and so quick. And all I could do is basically prescribe them stuff that the hospital tells me I have to prescribe. And I'm in this machine. And if I don't do it, then I got to start my own practice, but I can't afford starting my own practice. And so this shook me to the core to think, I've never asked crew chiefs if they wanted to do that. And so I said, wow, that's interesting. And he goes, so if you were a crew chief, other than the praise and recognition, why else would you do it? I said, the money. And he goes, what do you need money for? And I went, really? Are you just going to ask that stupid question? I need it for rent or mortgage. I need it for, food for my children and my wife. I need transportation, reliable transportation for them, pay for utilities. And he goes, he said, well, if you need money for the things that you feel like you need, why don't you learn how to make money instead of looking for a job? He goes, Robert, there's people on this planet that make a lot of money and they don't have a job. And I was like, what? And that's when I heard the first concept of entrepreneurships or being a business or an independent contractor. I was not aware that these things existed, Alpha. It was like, so if I could tell anyone, the strategies is a lot of people put in their mind what they believe is the systematic way that you need to do something to get somewhere. If you go to the people that are already there, here's the two biggest misconceptions. Alpha, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Because you reached out to me and didn't have the thoughts that a majority of the people have on the planet. And here's the majority. Why would someone that's made that much money want to talk to me?
Right.
Why would they do this? And people don't realize the most successful people on the planet now, because of the internet, you could go in and put interviews with Steve Jobs, interviews with Bill Gates, interviews with Elon Musk. These people give interviews to everybody because the larger amount of money you make, the more you realize that there's just a few things that we did. And when you get on the other side of the money, you no longer have despair. So after you buy the stuff that you think would make you happy, I hope people heard my words there. So you buy the stuff that you think that would make you happy. You do the vacations, you do all the stuff. Then you find out that the real joy comes from giving to others. So the trophies that you see behind me, a lot of them are not just for accolades of doing what I've done with companies, but it's also from charities. Charities giving me money, giving me a trophy and recognizing me for giving them money to take care of children. And that was my reason for doing it. I didn't need the accolades. I did it because I grew up in foster homes and I grew up in orphanages. And so I know what it means to somebody to know that someone actually cares, that and someone believes in them.
What charities are you currently involved with, if you don't mind sharing with us?
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. The one is called Jesus Way. It's on my Facebook profile. You can see it. And Jesus Way is a two individuals, one from India. His name is Matthew, and his wife Angel. And he came from India here and was able to get educated, then worked for big tech companies, and didn't find that fulfilling. So then he went back to India to not only build orphanages there, but also in Jamaica. And so he met me and he told me that he heard that I was an orphan and grew up in foster homes. So he says, I would like to build these orphanages. And the last time I talked to him, there's just a little over 2,500 children that are in those orphanages that I'm blessed to support. The other one is a company that I'm working with. They have what is called Zweigel Foundation. And the Zweigel Foundation has a number of charities within that that also give to children. My heart focuses on children. And so that's two of the biggest ones that I give to now. And I want to go from 2,500 to 25,000. So people go, why do you work so hard? That's why.
And how can people get involved with this charity that you're currently involved with?
Yeah, if they just went to roberthollis.com, and for those people that go, why would I listen to this guy? You could also Google me.
Right.
Yeah, but if you went to roberthollis.com, there's a page called Documentation Beats Conversation, and in there I showed the people, the charities that I've given to, and also a link to them. Another one that's dear to my heart is Starkey Hearing Foundation. So when you run into very wealthy people, they will continue to challenge you. So there's a guy named Bill Austin that, in my knowledge, I don't think there's anybody in the world that sells more hearing aids than this guy. And he started out as being a salesperson for a company that sold hearing aids, and he believed that he could do it better. Then when he got on the other side of money, Alpha, then the next thing he said is, I want to give back to humanity, and I want to fit children with hearing aids that have never heard the words, I love you.
Wow, that's beautiful.
They've never heard anyone laugh. And I'll tell you something quick that got me. Messaging is everything. So Bill Austin said, to me and a group of people, he said, have you ever been by yourself walking someplace and there's no one around you? And then all of a sudden you think you hear something, like maybe dog tags or something like that. The mind is pretty creative. And he said, so you get a little scared and you start picking up speed, to get to wherever you're going. Right. And then it seems like you hear it more. And now you're in a wide open run, worrying for your life. And he says you run up the stairs or whatever, and you get in the door and you shut the door and you look out to see, that nothing was there. He says, has anyone ever experienced that? And everyone, including me, raised their hands. And he said, do you realize that a deaf child is like that 24 hours a day?
Wow. That's powerful.
So imagine being a child and you're constantly having your mind create things that are not really there.
Lord,
you never get to go behind a door or put your arms around your parents and say everything's safe. So, of course, he really got me by showing me a video of him fitting a young girl with hearing aids for the first time, and how her and her parents just immediately started crying. They went, how much do you want?
That's so true.
So, yeah, and to show you where his heart is, I know we got on a tangent there, but he's a guy that's some money behind his words. So he's the kind of person that says, hey, Alpha, listen, if you can find it in your heart to give me $100, I'll match it with $500.
Perfect. Even better. And I think people like that in general are just so kind-hearted to the point where they understand their value in this world. One question, since we're talking about value and faith here, what does the faith mechanism mean to you throughout the course of the years, and how has that tapped into the success rate that you've gained over the years?
Say that first part again, Alpha. It broke up a little bit.
I was gonna ask, what does the faith mechanism means to you, having faith in yourself and the men upstairs, and how? And second part about that is, how has that helped you out throughout the course of the years as a
Ah,
owner? You know, because I remember you
yeah,
talking about at first, you didn't really have much faith. You were just seeking.
no.
So, can you please give us a little rundown on how that helped you throughout the course of the years to be the men that you
Oh,
are?
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, of course. My first mentor recognized this in me right away. He didn't have to ask about what kind of trauma and stuff that I went through as a child. He just could see that I didn't believe that I was enough, that I didn't believe that I was worthy. I didn't believe that I was capable. And you usually can hear it through people's voice and their tone of voice, but also their posture. You know,
Right.
they just don't believe in themselves. So they're going, you know, you could tell people alpha, you could say to people, listen, you can do what I'm doing. And they're going, oh, no, I can't. You know what I mean? So it's like, listen, I remember thinking that same thing. So my mentor, I don't know if I shared this with you before, but my mentor had me, it's always in front of me, but it's the greatest miracle in the world by Og Mandino. And he asked me, he said, Robert, you know, would you please go to the bookstore? And this was 36 years ago. And he said, get this book and read it for me. It was the first time, Alpha, that someone told me to read something where I didn't make up an excuse that I was dyslexic.
Wow.
Because I had a multi-billionaire said, Robert, I think that you should read this book. When you get done reading it, give me a call. It was like, yes, sir. And it was the reading of that book that switched me from being a victim to always having an excuse for everything, having an excuse for me, to realizing that I was a miracle.
Absolutely.
And when I realized that I was a miracle, that's when my connection with my creator became extremely, extremely strong. And that's when I realized that, you know, he created me to create. And so I don't need to do this by myself. I can constantly ask for help and guidance to get me to that next step. So, you know, we hear the lines, faith without works is nil. The definition of faith is actually saying or believing in something that doesn't exist yet.
Right.
And so stepping into faith is just realizing that maybe you can't do it on your own, but as long as you have goodwill and good instincts intuition to make that happen. And I tell people won't move forward unless they have something to look forward to.
Mm.
So what do you have to look forward to? And if you don't, you got to get that. So vision, VISION, vision for me stands for vision inspires success in others now.
Mm.
So if you have a vision for yourself of something you want to accomplish, make sure that you ask people what theirs are and help them create that vision. Because when they do, now the faith kicks in and now they need to find a group of people to make that happen.
Absolutely. And it's talking to the universe, letting the universe know, hey, I'm here. Let's get it.
Yeah, I got your back.
I got your
I
back.
got your back.
You can do it yourself. You know, we're in this together. We can do this. You know,
Amen.
so much for sharing that. I want to tap into the book that we mentioned earlier, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles here. And there's 3 chapters in particular that I want you to please elaborate for my audience here.
Yes.
Chapter 4, Chapter 7, and Chapter 14. Chapter 4 basically talks about, let me just pull it out here just to make sure they're correct. I don't have it by memory. The first principles in the science of getting rich. And these are key components, the 4, 7, and 14. And I know you know what this means here. So please go on board.
Yeah. And believe it or not, they should be in a combination of 4, 14, and 7.
4, 14, and 7, okay.
Yeah. So if you read it in that order, they're in a sequential order to make you want to read the rest of the book. And so the concepts behind them is that you know, it challenges you. It challenges you in a way that, listen, whether you're making excuses about your age, your education, your race, whatever you're trying to say. I grew up on the Rhine side of the track. Is to constantly give you illustrations that there's people that grew up just like you from the same areas. And if you did your research, you'd be blown away on what they've given back to humanity and how successful they are. So I remember when internet first hit, and the first thing that I Googled was successful people that are dyslexic. And you and I, Alpha, talked before we hit record, and it's over and over and over of just people that this is a trait that they have. And when you talk about education, Henry Ford's, quote in Think and Grow Rich is the best. Is like, if you think that you can't, you can't. If you think that you can, you can. And so similar, like Secession, the movie that's really exciting over there, all over in the world, is like there was a bunch of people that were related to Henry Ford that basically wanted to say that he was incompetent of being a billionaire and that he couldn't run this company, right? So they brought him into court to prove that he was incompetent to make decisions about his own family and his own legacy. And so the questions were always, well, listen, how do you read? And he says, I have a button on my desk that's S. S stands for secretary. And he says, so if someone sends me something, she comes in and reads it for me, and I pay her really well for it. If I need to make a response to this person, she will dictate it. I'll say it. She'll dictate it, write it, and then read it back to me. And if I want any changes, I can, and then I sign it and it goes off. And they're going like, well, do you know how much money you have? You didn't go to school. You didn't know how to read or write. And he goes, no, but on my desk, I have this A button. And when you press A, that's called accountant. So he proved that he had the wherewithal to hire people to do the things that he couldn't do, including run a business. So I just love the principles like that, because it really gets you. So those 4 chapters talk about that stop making excuses. There is a science. There is a science to getting wealthy. And the other one is J. Paul Getty uses this one all the time too, is he said, just very simply find something that other people want. So you find a need and fill it. And J. Paul Getty is known as creating a small thing called a gas station. So he also said, which is one of the principles we talked about earlier, you want to market something that people consistently need. Right. So his concept of putting people in business for themselves to run a gas station, that there's probably a pretty good point that people fill up at the same gas station all the time, and they probably will always need petrol. So it's like a pretty smart idea. And so the other thing is just understanding, again, like we talked a little bit about when you really have a desire and you look forward and you want to help others, that the powers to be, whether they exist or not, will help you find the resources, the people, everything that you need to make that happen. So I consistently connect myself with, I was on a video right before I jumped on here, Alpha, and that whole concept that still is around, that you need money to make money. It's just not true. It's not true. So if you grew up your whole life believing that you got to have money to make money, if you really grew up that way, you got to find a way to switch that paradigm.
Good. And just to piggyback on that, because my question I have for the following is that a lot of people have that mindset where you have to have money to make money. Then how do they circumvent that mindset to say, okay, I can, there's different ways for that. Please let us know.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, today we live in a world that not only has Google, but now we have AI. You know what I mean? And I've taken the time to just go in, and I'll give you the one that I always tell people, which is what I always promote, is affiliate marketing. So people don't know that there's Amazon and there's Audible. Well, I just told you about my book. Alpha just told you about the science of getting rich. If Alpha was thinking about affiliate marketing, he would have created a link with Amazon to be an affiliate for free with Amazon. So when he talked about the book, he'd say, hey, by the way, click on the link below. And all the people that go there and buy the book or the audio book from Audible, then Alpha would get a percentage of that money for promoting a book that should help you anyway. So people just forget that little step. So recently, Alpha, I did some YouTube videos and Facebook videos where, you know, it's funny, you can go into an AI, artificial intelligence, and I put, how can you make money from anywhere? And it brings up affiliate marketing. So then I grabbed affiliate marketing and I put in AI, can you really make money in affiliate marketing? The answer is yes. And so I, with a number of companies, am a super affiliate. So yesterday I did a video and I said, what's a super affiliate? And you got AI and Google saying super affiliates make way more money than an affiliate does because of their abilities and skills to get people to see their affiliate link more than a normal affiliate. And so, you know, I hope this will help people because people just go, man, I can't do this. No, you can do this. Absolutely. You can do this. And there's people like me that will teach you free how to do this.
You heard the word. You said it.
Yeah.
Teach you free. And that's the beauty of it.
Yes.
I asked Robert Hollis to join us this afternoon, just to give us a rundown in regards to what it means to be the man that he is today, the path that he took over the course of the time period, the struggles, the yeses, the nos, you know, the perseverance, all that. Obviously, we're talking a lot about successes. What is one big thing that you've overcome over the years when you look back and you say, you know what? I give thanks to the man upstairs. You know, because of that, I am the man that I am today.
Yeah, it was both situations in my life, Alpha, where because I was an orphan and grew up in foster homes, in my very younger years, I went from school to school to school. And so I had my senior year in Williston, North Dakota, and I thought the way to make friends with everyone was to throw a big party. And how I did that was I took a giant semi truck that wasn't mine, that was full of alcohol. And we have an agency here called ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They're a branch of the government. And they didn't think that was very funny, so they put me in prison.
Oh,
and
man.
So twice in my life, one was when I was told I couldn't be an auto mechanic anymore, and I lost my identity. It's sad that I waited for those tragic times to reconnect with my creator. And when I did, and I surrendered.
It's true.
And when I surrendered, everything worked great for me. Everything, it was like all of a sudden the people appeared. The resources that I needed appear. Because, you know, the creator knows my heart. The more I make, the more I give.
Absolutely.
And so some people that watch this video, if you're not that kind of person, learn to be that kind of person. Just make sure that you take a percentage of every time you get paid and just give it to someone. It doesn't have to be a church. It could be some of the 3 charities I talked about on this video, or some, you know, reach out to NASA Alpha, which was some of his favorite charities. But if you learn to give, one of the books I don't know if I ever shared with you, Alpha, is The Richest Man in Babylon.
Absolutely.
So I was told to, you know, to pay me first, to make sure that you give money. So now when you start that in it, it's like your discipline of doing that allows the universe and God that created it to actually send more resources to you, so they know more resources will go to the kingdom. So those are the things that I've done. Now I'm 61. I learned from my mistakes. People say it takes to be successful is wisdom. Unfortunately, wisdom comes from making mistakes, or what I call learning lessons. Absolutely. And for those of you that are struggling out there or feel like you're stuck, there's a lesson that the universe is trying to teach you that you're not listening to. So you just keep repeating the cycle. Why Why does this always happen to me? Why do I?
Right.
it,
Why?
it's a higher power, whether you believe in it or not. See, the laws of the universe are the laws of the universe, you know. So that's why the science of getting rich, or the art of fulfillment, gravity, the laws of reciprocity. There's laws that work every time. They were created to create who we are and create where we live. Mm-hmm. So by applying the laws that are already here, you don't have to believe in gravity and jump off a skyscraper and pretty much know that that'll be the last thing you do. And you can argue with gravity all you want to on your way down.
I mean, you can't fight the law of attraction. At some point, you gotta,
No. And so that's where you always will hear things like The Secret that make people not understand it or want to be skeptical of it, because they just go, God, Alpha's so lucky.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, he's so lucky. I don't know if I ever could get the confidence and the belief in myself to do a podcast. I don't think I look good enough. I don't think the lighting is good enough. I can't afford the equipment. I don't think I'm that extroverted to be able to just do that. And then not only does Alpha do that, but then the next thing he does is he reaches out to people like Robert Hollis. Oh my God, I could never reach out to someone that's successful and ask them if they would jump on a Zoom with me. See, so you guys are following a good person here. You're following a person with a great heart. And what you need to do is, if you're the kind of person that doesn't feel like you could step into that realm, then you got to do what the disciples did. Just give praise and recognition to the people that have done it. Exactly. If you notice that when Alpha talked and I talked, why did we give praise and recognition to people other than us? Because that's the way it works.
It comes from somewhere. It does. It comes from somewhere. I think that's just the power and the magic of believing.
Yes.
Understanding that everything is temporary, but at the same time, you got to reach out and pull the next person behind. The next question that I have for you, Mr. Hollis, is that, let's say a kid right now who is struggling, or just mentally, they're just stuck in their head trying to figure out the next step in their life, like you were in your late 20s. What advice do you have for that person right now who's going through it, who's listening to this video and saying, you know what, I hear you, but I'm trying here, man. What can I do?
Well, first you got to believe that someone's already traveled your journey. There's a thing out there called the hero's journey. And we love it because it's the story of Rocky. It's the story of Creed. It's the story of the Jedi. If you notice a lot of things like Field of Dreams, there's all these movies that really, really move us. And listen to the things they have in common. One, I'm a weirdo. There's no one like me. I'm a weirdo. Secondly, and it's funny that we all say that we're a weirdo. There's nothing like us, when we already know that we were created that way.
Right.
You can get in trouble with your DNA, your fingerprints. There's things that are different than everybody in the world, and you got a 1 in 400 trillion chance of being here. So all of a sudden you awaken and go, well, there's only one of me. That's pretty awesome. That is awesome. Now you got to learn to love that creation, right? So now, yeah, in that mentality, then what you want to do is reach out to people like Alpha and say, listen, have you been on a journey like this? Have you ever felt stuck? And it's called, and believe it or not, it's called learn hopelessness. We learn by people that we're hanging around that this is just the way it is.
That's so true.
So if you hang around a bunch of people that complain about their job and don't make enough money, and they just keep repeating that cycle, don't get mad at yourself or beat yourself up, because you think that way. You're hanging around a bunch of people. You ever heard anyone say, hey, what's your favorite soccer team? Your favorite football team? And you name it. And you go, why? I don't know. My brother loved them. My dad loved them. My grandpa loved them. You love this sport and you love this player and you love this team because other people did? So why is it always local? It's always local, isn't it? You don't have a bunch of people in another country saying they're fans for another country. It's pretty obvious that it's there. So to the struggling person out there, understand that it's not your thoughts. You just got to believe that other people have already went to your journey. So you figured out you're weird. And then you look for someone that got out of the journey and you find out who taught them. So in Star Wars, whether you like it or not, you know, Luke realized that I'm different. I'm weird. What happened then? His aunt and uncle got killed. I heard my dad was a Jedi. Where could I go to find out where he is? Oh, you need to go to this planet because that's where Jedi school is. And then the next step is you run into a mentor and the mentor doesn't understand you. No, the mentor's already been through the journey. So that's when you get sort of upset. You finally find a mentor like Alpha, and then you go, what should I do? And he goes, listen, you should go get this book and read it and call me. And people are going, I ain't doing that. That means the student's not ready.
Absolutely.
It's just that you're not ready. So if you seek a mentor and a mentor tells you to do something, and you say, like in the classic, deal where Yoda's raising up a ship, and then he tells Luke to do it, and Luke says, I can't. And he goes, and that's why you fail. What?
That's true.
You said you can't, and that's why you fail. No. Yeah, I said it wrong. I said I'm trying. You can't try, you got to do.
You have to do it.
So try pick up. You got a pen on your desk. Try pick up a pen. You can't try. You either do it or you don't. So for those of you out there that see this video live or recorded, just remember, if you're asking Alpha how he got to where he is, or you ask someone like me how we got where they did, understand a lot of the time what a mentor will do is tell a person to do something just to see if they're the right student.
True.
And so I tell a lot of people, hey, listen, do this. Hey, do this. Hey, just read chapters 4, 14, and 7 in that order and get back to me. And Alpha not only showed you the book, but people don't realize that it's over 100 years old.
1910.
So you can find it online for free. So what's your excuse? Tell me what your excuse is that you're listening to Alpha and people like me and they go, oh, I was told to read 4, 14, and 7 in that sequence, like opening up a safe.
True.
And I made the decision that I was too busy.
Too busy with what?
I'm too busy. I don't know how to read. I think this stuff is airy-fairy. Listen, when it all said and done, people that are not believers in the laws that were created, my thought was, why not believe in it and give it everything you got? So then you can say, hey, I tried that path and that path didn't work. Most people don't have the intelligence to say, maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll follow that path. It might not be for me, but I definitely would refer it to other people. See, I chose the path at a young age of working in the oil field. Then I picked being a mechanic. And when I got hurt on the job, at the time, I thought that was the worst thing that ever happened to me, to a point of not wanting to live anymore. But it was a setup. It was the best blessing in the world, because I was so good at what I did, Alpha, that my ego at the age of 24, 25, 26, I was making 60,000 a year working for professional race cars. And very, very, very selfish. Very selfish. So I had a job, I was making a lot of money, I had a lot of fortune and fame, and impacting nobody.
True.
And so the universe got my attention. Now I got a doctor that's telling me you'll never be a mechanic again. And I lose my identity as a husband, as a father, a provider. It stripped me of my manhood.
That's awesome. And thank you so much for sharing that with you. And one last question here.
Sure.
And it's very important for me to understand this question. What advice do you have for the next generation that's coming up? Because the whole point of this show is the next generation of business talk, where we dive in today's world where there's the old and the new, with the technology, with AI and everything else. You know, someone who's looking to start their own business, so we just want to get into the business field with so much going on. What do you have to tell them? Like, say, hey, this is Robert Hollis speaking here.
What I would tell Alpha people to do is stop looking for something to get in and look for someone to follow.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Stop looking for a product. If someone makes money from, with building a YouTube channel, or people make money from TikTok, or make money from OnlyFans, people want to get involved in something that makes money, but it's not their personality. It's not their journey. So you got to find someone that's on the same journey as you, as Luke finding Yoda. You got to say, okay, I'm not going to look for a business or a product, a way to market. I need to establish a connection with a mentor.
Absolutely.
And our mentors change all the time. One of my best mentors is a guy named Jim Rohn, and his last name is spelled Rohn. You can find all his videos on YouTube. One of the best mentors I've ever had, and never met him personally. Got all this stuff from Earl Nightingale and Conant back in the 80s when there wasn't any internet. Studied everything he had. That got me to Bob Proctor. Studied everything he had. I personally have been in Bob Proctor's and Jim Rowan's trainings numerous of times, Alpha. And there was still something that didn't feel worthy in me or enough to want to even wait in line and get a picture with them. They were virtual mentors of mine. And so, and someone that hit me, so you guys know recently, you brought up people recently, Vision Lakhani and Jay Shetty. Vision Lakhani owns a company called Mind Valley. And so, he's got 100 million subscribers on Mind Valley, and all it deals with is personal development, meditation, working on your health. It's so and think about having a first name Vision, and I think it's called Vishan, Vision Lakhani, and the other one's Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty, to me, I believe that he was grew up like in London and Germany, but Jay Shetty was so messed up because he knew he was on the right journey that he just sold everything and decided to become a monk, and went to the places to learn how to be a monk, and then came back to the United States, and now he's called the urban monk. So
change.
Yeah, so those would be younger people that I believe are making. They're just making a major impact in the world. And so Vision Lakhani, he wrote the book, The Code to the Extraordinary Mind.
Okay.
By Vision Lakhani. And his last name is spelled Lakhiani. So the code to the extraordinary mind. So yeah, there you go. And the amount of videos that these guys have online, the amount of interviews. I mean, they built a large enough following where virtually anybody that you can think of that you would want to know from, these guys did the same thing as Alpha did with me.
Yep.
They reached out to people and said, hey, I don't know anything about real estate. I don't know anything about building a YouTube channel. I don't know anything about, this certain deal. So they find the experts in that field and then they interview them and ask them the questions that Alpha did today.
That's amazing. So,
Alpha, I just told you were on the right track. It's like,
thank you so much. It's been a warm, blessed pleasure to have you on the Next Generational Business Talk. Most importantly, I want to thank you so much for the wisdom, the knowledge, and everything that you shared with the audience today. I'll make sure to have all the following information down on the link and also towards the Amazon page that you link towards here. Most importantly, all the books we also talked about today. The one right here, as we see, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallesley Waddles. You can get that for free, guys. This is absolutely a mind changer. I myself picked it up, reading on a consistent basis. I'm just a kid from Columbus, Ohio. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I promise you that. But most importantly, I want to thank Robert Hollis for being here and sharing us all this wisdom and knowledge. Again, thank you so much, sir. Do you have any last words for the people?
Yeah, the last words is, if no one's giving you permission to be happy and fulfilled and successful in life, let me give you that permission. My mentors did that for me. I believe in you. I know you can do it. Mm-hmm. And so take the steps. We'll show you step by step exactly what to do.
Perfect. Again, thank you. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you for listening.
God bless and talk to you soon.